from the Central American news outlet El Faro, who have sued NSO Group after the company's Pegasus spyware was used to hack their phones. Then we'll talk about today as Election Day in Georgia. Stay with us.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. This is the Old Crone series. And the first, we're in our number 4 of the series. And the last 3 I have just been setting up. And I've also been reading from Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And I found this book in 1970 in the Old Crone's library. Not in the stack, but lying just on a space on the thing. I picked it up and I looked through it. And I went to the title page and it said, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, published by Dover Thrift Editing in 1991, and it was 1970 when I found this book. And it had been annotated
a group of journalists working for an award-winning Central American
by
independent
a person
news
named
outlet
Carrie
filed a
H.
lawsuit in a U.S. court against the NSO Group.
And
That's
I picked it up
company
and
that
I've read it
operates
before,
spyware,
Charles
which has
Dickens,
been
but
used to monitor and track journalists, human rights activists, and dissidents across the globe. The journalists
not like
suing
this,
the NSO
not
Group
from the
all
future,
work
and not
for El
annotated
Faro,
by someone I
which
didn't
is
know.
based in El Salvador. Perhaps the oldest exclusively online.
The only thing I had
newspaper.
physical
They
of
allege
being
that
with
malicious Pegasus surveillance software
the
was
ancient
used to infiltrate
Irish
their
crone
iPhones and track their
was this book
communications and
from her library,
movements.
right?
The
And
journalists
she gave it to me.
believe
She said, you
the
should hold on to
Salvadoran
this.
government and President
It'll
Nayib Bukele
come, it'll
were
be
behind the surveillance.
useful
The
and
lawsuit, which was filed
important
by
to you
the Knight First
a number of
Amendment
times. It'd be
Institute
like a
states,
touchstone,
quote,
like
the
an
attacks
anchor,
have
like this is
compromised
anchoring me
plaintiffs' safety,
to the
as well
Old
as the
Crone,
safety
right?
of their colleagues, sources, and family members. We're
1991,
joined now by
I
two
was
guests, Carrie DeSells,
in Asheville, just getting into Asheville, North Carolina, work on a project to do an ethnography on
and Roman Clessier
the Biltmore
is a
House, which was
French-American
bigger
staff
than
reporter with El Faro English.
the
He's one of 15
Louis
plaintiffs
house
in a
in
lawsuit
France,
against the NSO Group.
Versailles.
He's joining us from Guatemala City. Roman, let's begin with you.
Why not?
Tell us what you found and why you joined with other reporters for El Faro to sue the NSO Group.
I'm so sorry. I was in some audio interference. I didn't hear you.
And so was I. I mean, that's like too deep in the woods. So back to Charles Dickens, because he's more important than that. That is ridiculous crap, right? And we don't need to have ridiculous crap on this channel, right? And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. We're doing our Christmas Carol series of I Met an Ancient Irish Crone, right? And I, your griot, Sensei Al Bob, is the founder and your sensei when you get a hold of me at the dudewake42 at gmail, dudewake42 at gmail, dudewake at 40g, and get a hold of me. A lot of people do. So there's like, we never quite get to 500 subscribers. I mean, we once had a Jerry Lewis telethon to get to 500. We got to 500. We were going towards 600. And when we got to 545, there was a glitch. And my subscriber base went down to 445. Now we're up to, I don't know, something. And, it could be.
Attacks are based in the U.S. and we're hoping to, we're asking the court to also order NSO Group to reveal its client. We're of course of belief that it was the government of El Salvador who engaged in these attacks.
Anyway, isn't it fun? Same as it ever was, until we change it. It's up to us. Hey, good morning, Janie. Irish Kronerot. Yep, howdy. Sensei Cadre. Multitasking background noise. Yep, that's me. Multitasking background noise. That's me. And that is a valuable skill. Most people don't have it. I do. I am just like that radio announcer that you heard on the elevator. Really wasn't there, but it was drilling into your head. Anyway, so it's a book I found in 70, and then the lady who was sanitizing it, I met in Asheville in 91. And I was in a coffee shop reading this, and she goes, where did you? And she like took it out of my hands and said, "This is my book. There's my name. I was just at it. I lost this 2 days. You take this." And I said, "No, sit down. You're going to have to sit down." And she was the cute as a button, and she had red pigtails. She looked just like the girl on the Wendy's sign, except she was 32 years old and quite a looker, as they say, right? And she had these really as red as that, and these cute little freckles and this little pug nose. And she was like the Irish, Celting night. They have this in the Celts. They have the baddest ad. I mean, when they need somebody to go and change the battlefield, they send in the girls. And the girls kind of come, they get themselves in without really being noticed and cut the nuts off of the chieftain and everybody else. And then it's the end of the war. So anyway, she grabbed this book and gave me that book, right? And I said, "Sit down. You won't believe this." And I told her the story where I got it in 1970, this book. And she looks at it and she goes, "Oh my God." I said, "What do you mean, oh my God?" She goes, "This book is totally annotated to the last page. And I have comments written all over it. And I've only annotated up to page 18. That's where I left off and lost the book. And it's in my handwriting. At the very end, I write a whole bunch of stuff here, and it's in my handwriting. I can't believe this." And that's when we became quite the couple, right? And so she was there, and she had a gig, and it lasted about 2 years. So we had a really great time, So first I kind of lived in a motel, and she liked that, and she had a place up there where the Bunkin Boy is. There's a kind of park up there, and there's kind of a campsite up there, and there are people who've been in that same campsite for the last 40 years. So she had been there for about 6 months. She had like squeaked in and got in under whatever clause that was. And I was Santa Claus to her. She was the camping Claus. I was the Santa Claus. And so I had a motel room right in town in the Haywood Hotel where I had the atrium, and there was nobody there. So I had this nice, really nice, high class, high end, really something with room service for like $27 a night, right? And the Forest Service, whoever was paying my salary, was paying this, right? I had like until I could find something, right? So I had that for the first 2 or 3 months, until it got really, really sweet, right? It was like end of July, and I found this other place. So I said, "Listen, I want to come back here. Let's say can I make a reservation? And if I'm still doing that job and they're still paying my bills, can I, reserve a thing for like around, October, middle of October?" And they say, "Yeah, we have nobody, next 6 months, nobody's reserved for anything. So sure, we'll put you down there, whatever you want. We like you. You've been here almost 3 months, and yes, we like it. Come on back." Because I room service the whole gig. And my redhead, she loved that hotel, right? And they had a gym and a jacuzzi, and there was nobody there. We would swim in their pool for like naked. It was a good time. It was a good old days. It really was, right? And that's like I said, I live like a millionaire on $400 a month, So not to say that I don't thank you for all the gifts and gracious, hospitality that you all have shown, right? And I want to thank you for everybody throwing something up on the old PayPal. But here it is, December. Daddy needs a brand new pair of socks, that's for sure. It's going to get cold, meaning it's cold there now, but it was almost 50 last night, and it's like almost 70 now. I mean, it's so dank. I live in a holler. It's dank. And the homeless guy who lives over in an abandoned car, he stuck a freaking wood stove in there. That is like a sauna. I went there this morning. I brought him breakfast, and it was like because this guy, there's somebody always off worse than you, right? And it's really, really, and this is a place where nobody is. But statistically, more people that die here of OxyContin than any place else, right? Because when I first moved here 20 years ago, there were about 19,000 people, holler folk, people who had been here for generations, right? There's only 3,000. And I got here in 2000 and sometime between 2003 and 6. I think it was somewhere in there. I basically, bought this place, right? And it was just holler folk. There were a lot of, wannabe, gated communities, but they all failed because this place is 50 miles in any direction, and there's only 2 roads. And to get to any of those 2 roads, you gotta go all over squirrely. This is a Sawtooth Mountain accordion, so these mountains are like this. So if you're living over here and the main road's over here, you have to go woo. However, the squirrely guys did it back in the 16th century. Anyway, that's what I moved in. That's what I went for. This was like a nature preserve for 18 years. I can't complain, right? And the rich people who come in here, it's like they complain about how terrible Miami was, or how terrible LA was, or how terrible San Francisco was, how terrible this was. And really, the terribleness was them. And they just brought their terribleness with them. It's pretty amazing. But it's still not at a place. I mean, it's already gone over that tipping point. And that's because the whole fucking world has gone over its tipping point, But it doesn't, an asteroid hit this planet and killed everything except a few, little cockroaches under the rocks. And, 6 million years later, which is nothing compared to the 3 billion years that this planet's been here we are. And everything else, and plants and squirrels and dolphins and and the thing that's going to kill them is kill them in that kind of esoteric way that boy, that's what does Russia call it about blowing up Ukraine? It's an existential threat, right? We had to attack and kill everyone because it was an existential threat to us. Of course, they're just reading the script. This is just a frigging soap opera. Just look at your own life out there. Your whole friggin' life is a friggin' soap opera because none of you guys are stepping up on the chin to be a decider. You're just going along for the ride. Right? So, anyway. Bah, said Scrooge. Humbug! He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost. That's like where I'm living. This nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all in glow. His face was ruby and handsome. His eyes sparkled and his breath smoked. Again, Christmas humbug, Uncle? Said Scrooge's nephew. You don't mean that. I'm sure you don't mean that. I do, said Scrooge. Merry Christmas! What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough. Come then, returned the nephew gaily. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're so rich. You're rich enough. Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, Humbug! Again, followed with Humbug! Bah! That's where humanity has got itself into. The bah humbug stage, right? I'm going to do what's right for me, man, and my family. But if I have to shoot my kids, I will. Please. Come on. back in the O's when I started working for the Desperate Lawyers, and I would have to interview these corporate leaders because I was a person who was making the, I was sitting there. I wasn't like, but I was the guy who was taking notes on what was their psychological makeup. Why are they doing this? What angle does the lawyers have to hit this guy? Because it's not legal. It's going to have to be something else. That's why they brought me in, the guy who would figure out what that something else was. And boy, for almost 15 years, a good solid 10, I was in demand, and because I would, look like just same car. I mean, I bought it the second year I did that. I just had the cash and just walked right in and put the money down on the vehicle. And the guy said, well, after I got the best price I could get. And he said, no, that's not the way to do it. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm looking at your thing. You got a little bit. You don't really charge anything. You need to get a loan for this. So you're making, they're saying you're great, but there's no credit, line there. So why don't you just I'll just do it right here out of our office right here. I'll give you a loan, and I'll give you really good, instead of like 8%, I'll give you like 3%, because the economy was like, and this is after 08. And so, and then he goes, pay us off every month for like 6 months, and then go get another one in a bank you want to do banking in, right? And then after 6 months, pay it off, and your credit will be through the roof. And he was right. And I became, what's his name? The Midwestern zillionaire, Omar Bates. Somebody. He always looks like that. Guy who's trying to sell you Raisin Bran. But anyway, he coined a phrase: buy, borrow, die. Right. So that's what I was doing. Right. Did that 15. So every time I borrowed something, got a loan, and I just kept than enough to pay everybody off every month, and I did it automatically. Boy, I had right. I could get anything, do anything, right? But in reality, it's worthless, right? All it did was make me fucking fat. Meaning, when I died in 2014, I was 460, 80 pounds, somewhere in there, right? And I died. What did I do with my glasses? Put them on my head. Oh, cool. Glasses, where'd you go? Woohoo, glasses. Okay. See, that's the magical thing around here, at least with me. I go to do something, I put something somewhere, and then whatever I need is gone for a moment till I always have the backup. You got to have the backup. If you're going to be consciously aware, you got to have the backup. You also have to have guardrails. I have guardrails. What are my 3 guardrails? Anyone out there know my guardrails? Anybody? Okay. Number 1 guardrail: doctor, do no harm. Don't do anything if it's going to cause harm. Oh, but it'll save his life, but it's going to kill him. That's doctor, do no harm. Number 1. 2. Do not get involved unless you have a workable exit strategy and you're only going in to save the innocent folk. Nothing else, not to be on the front news or nothing, just to get the innocent folk out of harm's way. And you have a workable exit strategy, right? And a plan B, right? Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, do not get involved for your ego. Only get involved if those first 2 are set, and you're going in to learn something that will make the situation better, right? So don't do anything that will cause harm. Don't move into the site unless you have a workable exit strategy, at least for yourself, if not the innocent folk too, also, because it's the we and me. Your life is not about you. It's about the we and me. Okay. Where do we go? You will, let's see. Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatsoever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner Scrooge signed it. And Scrooge's name was good upon the change, meaning everything that was Marley's became Scrooge's, even though Scrooge was second on the sign, right? Scrooge knew he was dead, meaning Marley. Of course he's dead. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assignee, his sole residuary, legate, meaning the power of attorney, and his sole friend and sole mourner. Right? Is that what you want to be? Right? So when I died in 2014, I died in a plate of spaghetti in Altorres, which was in Miami, the finest, the rissiest, the everything. And we were in like a tiny dining room that they, had 1.5 servers for each person there. And there were about like 5 of us. And, if your wine went under that in your glass, they would like pour something in. Right? And they had all the spoons and all the forks and I was there and I was having this bolognese that was yummy. And I'd already had some eggplant and salad and some fish and some duck. And I was having some pasta now. And I just had it on the fork. And luckily I didn't stick the fork in my eye, but I just went, ooh, bam, right into the plate of spaghetti. All I remember is looking at that fork going, good. And then the next thing I knew, I sat up on a gurney being whaled into a operating theater where there were a whole bunch of people, in gowns and their hands up like this. And I was in the glass window and the guy who's in charge of the juice was walking by me, and there was a nurse and there was a, just a black guy in scrubs pushing the gurney. And the nurse was taking things down and writing it down. The doctor was making sure I was getting the right formula. And at that, I was basically on medical, the shit they give you, that fentanyl, I think. Yeah, the stuff that'll just. So they don't want you to wake up when they have your chest out and the guy's holding your heart. They don't want you to wake up. So they had me on that crap. But I sat straight up like Chatty Cathy and say, "What's going on?" Right? And the guy pushing the gurney turned, and shat in his pants as he ran away. The nurse, she wasn't that indisposed. But she took off, leaving the doctor, who legally had to stay by my side because I had the jungle juice that he mixed going into me. And he goes, this is impossible. And because I had died in a plate of spaghetti, right? And they had got me into the emergency heart place before I was dead. And they resuscitated all my organs too, and my brain wasn't brain dead. And so they were going to crack my chest, do a quadruple, clean all the gook out, take a chunk out of my colon, and chop my legs off. Right? That was on the checklist, right? Because I was diabetically challenged there. Anyway, I sat up and said no, but I was all of that before I fell into that plate of spaghetti, right? And then I went from, instead of having spaghetti on my face, I came to in the cafeteria of the HRS, Hitler's Rifle Squad, Holy Redeemer School, a Catholic grammar school that went up to 8th grade and went from didn't have kindergarten. So I had with my grandma, I went to this amazing public school, amazing, because it was in a rich part of town. So it was an amazing school. And the kindergarten, like this girling was like an angel, right? And she got me reading in kindergarten, right? And then off to 1st grade, right? And so in dying in a plate of spaghetti, I woke up in that Catholic school where all the nuns were basically retreads from the Nazis. They actually were. actually came through the rat line of the Vatican into the United States on the Operation Paperclip, and they stuck them in Catholic schools because they could wear a penguin suit and kind of be hidden in plain sight. And if they beat the crap out of someone or murdered them, well, nuns do that shit every now and then. So, that's what happened to me. After being in that Catholic school only, I don't know, no more than 6 weeks, not even into the first far along of the first grade did I make it out alive. And so, bang, when I died at 68 or so, no, not, I'm probably 65, somewhere between 64 and 66. When is it? 66. No, 64. Right, 64. I'm 64, and I died of play spaghetti, right? And then I woke up in HRS's cafeteria, which is underground. It's like, so the ceiling's 8 feet high. It's painted this pea green vomit color. There's always a bucket with that antiseptic Lysol stuff that makes you want to vomit. Ooh, it's starting to rain. It was sunny when I drove up here. Hear the rain? And there I was, and and I had a party hat that said "Welcome Home," and there were balloons everywhere and streamers, and there's a big vanilla cake saying "Welcome Home, Sensei Al Bob." And I look around and I go, "Oh, good, I can relax. I'm at home." And I was wearing really nice pajamas, comfy, fuzzy pajamas, and bunny slippers, and a nice hat. I had a nice welcome home hat on my head, and it was like a magician's hat. It wasn't made out of cardboard. It was like my old magician's hat. That's a whole nother story. And let's put this one window up here. Yeah, it's dripping in.
On who would be named in a criminal referral. He said the panel is still working on the comprehensive report of its findings.
We're still
It's
talking about
currently
this.
8 chapters long, but Thompson didn't say when the report will be released. The panel is due to sunset at the end of December. Barbara Sprent, NPR News, the Capitol.
The person accused of carrying out the Club Q mass shooting.
No, I just say no to all of that. I will not be a party to it, right? Now, the universe always puts me where I'm supposed to be. So I tried to get to New York, I'm not supposed to be there, right? I came back, and basically I can survive this, everyone says it's going to be ridiculous, but I've been here 18 years. But most of those 18 years, I had places down in Florida, right? And so that's what I did, right? And here's a little part I'm going to read about that. So, one of the reasons I went down to Florida is that in, I guess, 93, my father had burnt every bridge with all my other siblings, because all my other siblings went into a family business and he treated them like shit. He paid them really well, but, so I had nothing to do with my family my whole freaking life. I mean, I'd be there for Christmas because grandma was making eggplant. And I'd hang, we'd have a good time because my parents really loved the holidays. I mean, especially Christmas. It was like off the hook. So that was fun, And my father and mother could be fun. They had real fun parts of them. And so were my brothers and sisters. I love them dearly to this day, right? And I don't judge them. And that's why I love them dearly this day, because I don't judge them. Even when they judge me, even when they screw with me, even when they fuck me over, I don't judge them. And I don't wish them anything, but I love them because I know just from my singular experience that anyone who fucks people over, who lies, why I don't lie, cheat, or steal is that, or at least consciously or knowingly, I will, I won't do it because there's no reason to do it, and there is no upside. I mean, whatever you might get over on someone, it's chump change. It doesn't mean anything, right? It's like a penny, right? And yet you'll have to look back for the rest of your life, right? If you lie, you have to think about all the things you said. I don't know how many shows I've done on this thing. This was, I constantly say, don't believe a word I say, right? Right. So I'm saying, if you have to believe something, you shouldn't be watching this show. Maybe that's why so many people, my algorithm shows that what it really shows that's quite interesting. So I have 400 and something, almost 90 subscribers. So come on, subscribe, you guys out there. Subscribe, come on the live chat. That's why it's there. Come on, let's hear some stuff from you guys. Right? And I'd love to hear, you know, a similar story from you guys, right? That's why I call up people on the phone. So because they seem to be more reticent to speak their little story than to jump on here. I guess whatever it is, to give them anonymity. But anyway, what was I going to read? Yes, let's see. Can I see this? Let's see, where is this? Second of the three speeds. Okay, so that's page 31. Okay, let's go to 31. So this is the guy of present day. Okay, so I'm going to start reading Charles Dickens, and from page 30. No, from page 31, stave 3, right? Go look up what stave means, right? So, the second of the three spirits, the ghost of Christmas present. And that's the annotation by our dear sweetie Carrie, right? So she annotated this, right? She annotated this in 93, and I found it in 70 in Ireland, right? And she was in, I think, Minnesota somewhere. So I'm going to start with the first sentence of the first paragraph of stave 3, the second of the three spirits. And this is what we should all be having in our heart in every day in every way. When I keep saying, co-creation with love, this is what I'm talking about. Awakening in the middle of the prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again upon the stroke of 1. He felt that he was restored and conscious in the right nick of time for the especial purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger dispatched to him through Jacob Marley's intervention. But finding that he turned uncomfortably cold when he began to wonder which of his curtains this new specter would draw back. He put them every one aside with one hand, lying down again, established a sharp look out all around in the bed, for he wished to challenge the spirit in the moment it appears, and did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Gentlemen of the free and easy sort, who plumb themselves on being acquainted with a move or two, and being usually equal to the time of day, express the wide range of their capacity for adventure by observing that they are good for anything from the pitch and toss to the maelstrom, between which opposite extremes, no doubt, there lies a totality-wide, a comprehensive range of subjects, without venturing for Scrooge quite as hardly as this. I don't mind calling on you to believe that he was ready for a good broad field of strange appearances, and that nothing between a baby rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for the thing, and consequently, which, when the bell struck one and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. And our good friend Carrie speaks her little annotation. And what she did, that whole paragraph, she put little bubbles around, right? And that's her annotation right there. And she states, he is prepared for something to happen, but not prepared for nothing to happen. Ooh, I like this girl. And I still like this girl because she came back into my life a few months ago in the early, Indian summer, I think it was September. Or it might have been August. And she's way in another planet. But she found me on YouTube with the old Crone series, and then she found Dreamy Dreamland. And good morning, good evening, and welcome aboard to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. Your griot, here to tell you a story. And I am doing a series called The Old Crone, the old ancient, or the ancient Irish crone, right? Or whatever it's put there. And let's see, Irish chronograph, and that's really, I like that, Jane. That's a nice turn of phrase, chronograph, because the crone is like a time machine, right? And so let's go to the next page. And boy, was Carrie annotate these 2 pages up a kazoo. Let's see, light so I can see. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time he lay upon his bed, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, which, being only light, was more alarming than a dozen ghosts, as he was powerless to make out what it meant or would be at, and was sometimes apprehensive that he might be at that very moment an interesting case of spontaneous combustion without having a consolation of knowing it. At last, however, he began to think as you or I would have thought at first, for it was always the person not in the predicament who knows what ought to have been done in it, and would unquestionably have done it too if they thought of it, if they were consciously intent. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Om. And that's all in one breath, and that's still breathing out in that same breath. Breathe in that prana. Let it go into your lungs. Illuminate your whole body. Close your eyes. See in front of you your imaginary mirror. Bango, you're there in Charles Dickens land. The moment Scrooge's hand was on the lock, a strange voice called him by his name, bade him enter. He obeyed. It was his own room that he entered. Very 2001 Space Odyssey, when Dave goes through all those lights and then he comes into that motel room and he's there as a young guy and then a middle-aged guy and then an older guy and then an ancient guy about to fall apart, and then he's in bed dying, and then he wakes up, gets out of bed, and walks through the door into the next reality where he is born the Star Child, right? And here's Dickens writing the same thing in 1843, right? The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, for every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened. The crisp leaves of the holly, the mistletoe, the ivy reflected back in the light as if so many little mirrors had been scattered there, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as the dull perfection of the hearth, and had, now I have to read that, the dual perfection of the hearth had never been in Scrooge's time. I mean, there had never been such, nobody had put that much coal or wood to make that kind of fire. Scrooge always just had to be saving money. It was always just, how am I going to pay my bills? Heaped up upon the floor, and to form a kind of throne where turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great joints of meat, sucking pig, long wreaths of sausage, mince pies, plum pudding, barrels of oysters, red hot chestnuts, cherry checked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, immense 12th cakes, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious their delicious steam. In every state upon the couch there sat a jolly giant, glorious to sit down. Delicious steam. In easy state upon his couch there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in the shape none unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping around the door. "Come in!" exclaimed the ghost. "Come in, and know me better, man." So here's Love's co-creation speaking to humanity. Scrooge being the character in charge of being the poster boy, right? And so here's Love's co-creation, the burning bush, right? He's got that burning torch in his hand, the light. He's illuminating, that's the prana bringing life. So come on. Conscious aware I am, conscious aware I am, conscious aware I am. Breathe in that prana light from that big torch. Feel that prana go into your lungs. Expand your lungs and eliminate all of the toxins. You breathe out more volume from your body than you eliminate, extract, or defecate, right? So, Scrooge entered timidly and hung his head before this spirit. It was not the dogged Scrooge he had been, and though its eyes were clear and kind, he did not like to meet them, meaning this character sitting on a throne who just invited Scrooge. "Come in, man!" Not Scrooge, man. Right? "I am the ghost of Christmas presents," said the spirit. "Look upon me," meaning, hey, look at me. Hey, remember in that movie, mobster movie where John Travolta would say to people, "Hey, look at me. No, really look at me. Listen to what I'm saying." Right? Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in open, simple, deep green robe, a mantle bordered with fun fur, a garment hung so loosely on the figure that its capricious breast was bare, as if disdaining to be warded by concealed by any artifice. Meaning all these people dressing up, right? This guy, he was half naked in his bathrobe, right? He was having a good time. Where's that sentence? Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, sparkling eyes, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained denouement. Love that word. And its joyful air. Garbed round its middle was an antique scabbard, but no sword was in it, and its ancient sheath was eaten up with rust. Meaning he hadn't been armed in a long time. You have never seen the likes of me before, exclaimed the spirit. Never, Scrooge made an answer to it. Right? When people look at me, they can't believe what I'm seeing. He never walked forth with his younger members of the family, meaning, for I am very young. My elder brothers born in these latter years, meaning this guy is, the clothes are so loose is because he's the ghost of Christmas past. So he lives there that 1 year. It's the new year. He's a baby. Remember the baby with the in diapers and the thing here? That's that spirit. Meaning being born with the kind of jovialness he just had, as and as he's letting go on New Year's Eve, he's like the old guy, right? But then he becomes, Doctor Who doesn't have anything on this spirit, right? And this is why humanity is still here. Is that the spirit is born every freaking year, right? And it's, Jesus was the harbinger of this spirit, right? And Buddha was before Jesus, and Vishnu before that, and the guy before that, and the guy before that. And because every year there's a new Jesus. When people, when he comes back, everything will be hunky-dory. No, he doesn't leave. He's like born every New Year's. Can you get a grip of that? Can you understand? That's why you're supposed to be making New Year's resolutions right friggin' now, not when you're drunk on New Year's Eve and you're like, just smoked a whole pack of cigarettes. I'm gonna stop smoking these things. That's my New Year's resolution. Being, no one wants to kiss you because you taste and smell like an ashtray. So you feel anxious. So the year isn't a minute old, and you have broken your New Year's resolution. But if you start now with something that is broad enough to, put everything into, just like the ghost of, Christmas present, who's born on New Year's Day and he lives 365, like that's all he's got, because that's all he's got, even though he's going to live for freaking ever. And every now and then, when he pops out and he doesn't die, then just like me, I died in 2014, but really not died. And so, when I popped back up, because everybody was there, all my teachers, my masters, everybody was there. Like, hey, you did a great job. Yeah, and handshake with Bob went a long way. You are a lucky bastard. But, and when Ashike said, but, I said, oh, what? What's the but? What's the but? He goes, well, you've done a great job. Better than most. I said, better than most? He goes, yeah, better than most, but, you still got 11%. I said, what? He goes, oh, yeah. You're supposed to have died in that place, spaghetti, but you took 15 years off being Mr. Hedonist. Well, you had to do that too. You learned a bunch, that third, you did no harm, right? You always had an exit strategy. You got a lot of innocent people out of harm's way, and you learned something. What did you learn? Not to eat that much. Not to overconsume anything. You consume anything, but not overconsume anything. So, right now, your New Year's resolution for the year 2023. Could you believe it? We're in 2023, right? When 2009, when 2012 came around, it's 10 years ago. I thought it was, I was a scholar for 30 years. I studied the, Mayan calendar and all of the other esoteric elements because that's just one little teeny weeny window. That was all the Mayan calendar was. A little teeny weeny. You should go read Willoughby, the guy who wrote Communion. He wrote a whole bunch of other books that were really great. And Communion, his experience of being abducted and what it did to his family and everything, right? That's a very good one. Then he spent 5 books rehashing that, right? And then he wrote in 2012 or 2011 or whenever he wrote it, a book called 2012. Read that book. That's a very good book, right? And the other one of his series, was this one called Grays, right? So Communion, 2012 and the Grays. Very, very good books. They really give a really salient on what it is. And Steven Spielberg, he was tapped to be the poster boy of the great cinematographer of the latter part of the 20th century and the early part of the 21st century. And he was also tapped to be the guy to give that thing where they tell the public, hey, this is what it's going to be like. Here's a movie. So when it does happen, you won't be in shock. So I saw a movie about that. And, preparation or whatever they call that. And so, and Dickens, what's the beauty of Dickens? 1840, he write about now. This is only, less than, he wrote this so he could memorize it. 68 pages, right? So he wrote this so every Christmas, after this got famous, he would go to the big hall in his neighborhood, or, in London, sell tickets to act out this, right? He wouldn't read it because he memorized it and he had it down. And there's Dickens doing Christmas Carol, right? So people would pay a pretty penny. So he could, one evening's fun and he'd have a big party and half the people there were rich people he knew and they'd have, after show party, which pretty much if you bought a ticket, you could come to that. And it was one heck of a good time. And so he'd have a big chunk of change at, Christmas Day. And he would give a third of that away immediately, right? And so that paid for all kinds of things all that year, that birth of, the new year. He started that with Christmas Day, right? You have to start right now with these 2 mantras. I'm giving them. Your sensei, your griot, is giving you an important gift here. Realize it. Come on, wake up. And that is to breathe in the prana. Ground yourself in Chi, Mother Earth, Gaia, and become part of that circuit, right? You're going to become part of that precious biome. Because when humanity is part of that, that's co-creation with love. So, come on, breathe in. Focus your conscious mind on your breath. To breathe this deep, you can't be thinking about anything else, or you can't get there. Keep going until your diaphragm lifts, and that's all you're thinking about. And then you, and when your diaphragm, it just like sucks, throws all that air out, so you can extract, vomit all of the negative energy, from the last zillion lives you have to what happened yesterday, right? And when you do that, that's when you let go of judgment, right? And when you're always trying to balance, you compare. No. You have to have Jesus's unconditional forgiveness in this thought up here. Unconditional forgiveness. First, you forgive yourself, and then whoever else is pissing you off. And in that process, you have just let a whole bunch of prana in to heal whatever that anxiety is. See it clearly, right? And then breathe it out, and then you breathe it in again. Right? All that prana, and when you pull up the diamonds, and you and you say, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am. And in that thought of the conscious intent is that thing that you're going to do right in front of you. Like, fix this, do that, write this letter, but you're now got your total conscious intent of love's co-creation. You're going to say the right, do the right, be the right person, and not be unconscious moron that will, inevitably lie, cheat, steal, right? Because you're not even thinking about it. So sure, lie, cheat. Oh, sure, I'll lie. But then you start thinking about, I just lied, so now I have to remember that lie, and then it's steal. I just stole that, piece of bubble gum for a penny, and I have to worry about it. Maybe I can't come in the store anymore. Just all of that kind of shit. Until I realized that about 6 years old, that when I watched my friends lie, cheat, and steal, because pretty much that was like the end of the 50s when I was that age. And pretty much our whole society was lie, cheating, and stealing. I mean, everything since since white guys got here, but seriously, the modern America, 1947, the National Security Act, 1947, what happened with Roswell, 1947, everything from 1891 until 1947 was this thing of unbelievable nuts that everyone just kept tamped down, didn't talk about, blah, 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 right? And that's why we had, the Boer War. That's why we had World War I. That's why we had all of the conflict we had. And the shit that was going on then was way more bloody per capita than what's going on now. Not quite as, demonstrably violent / destructive, because we have weapons now that, before you just had a club and a knife and maybe a gun. Now you have cruise missiles and all kinds of shit. So anyway, but it's still the same thing, right? And so all you have to do is, the breath out, conscious intent, I am conscious, and put that, the conscious intent you have is the unconditional forgiveness of Jesus Christ, right? And the unconditional love of the great creator, the burning bush in your heart. That's what faith is, those two, right? That's what the DNA twist is. Father, Son, and we are that burning flame, right? And that's what the burning bush said to Moses, I am a work in progress. He didn't say I am who I am. I mean, only Popeye says that. If you go to the Greek translation of the ancient Hebrew, which is in Sumerian, you'll see that he said, I am a work in progress. And you, meaning you, humanity, you were made, created in my image and likeness, because the only way I can figure out what I'm doing is watching. And the Old Testament, when everything was so brimstone and I was killing people left and right, so because you guys were doing that, it's just following your cue. And that's because you had the guts to choose to know the knowledge of good and evil. Now, it's the way it's supposed to be is everyone is good, and not via, the golden rule, because the golden rule is whoever has the gold rules. That's why gold is so, worshipped. So anyway, and that's what Dickens in this book is talking about. Amazingly. And he wrote it in 1841. And amazingly, I found it in 1970 in the west coast of Ireland in, the Old Crone's Library, which went on forever. It was a zillion times bigger than the library at Trinity, which was one of the oldest libraries on the planet. And, not like this, but laying on one of the shelves, I found this, picked it up, looked at it, and read, Charles Dickens, Christmas Carol, written in, 1847. Then it says here, presently published by Dover Thrift Editions. And they sold books like this for 50 cents, right? And I go down and look at its address, and then I look at what this book cost, 50 cents. And then I see the date when they did this. And the date when they took, the licensing and published it this way was in 1991. And I was reading this book that said it was printed in 1991 in 1970, right? And then in 1993, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, in a coffee shop, and I thought I lost this book, and look, I found it, right? And I'm in this coffee shop, and this girl walks in, and she stops right in front of me and goes, "Where'd you get that book? That's my book." And I said, "What do you mean?" And I'm looking at it like this. She goes, "It says right in where you're looking, it says Carrie H, right?" And I said, "You're right." And then I kind of went on, and I said, "Here, it's your book." And she kind of looks at it and goes, "My God, this looks 20 years old. I bought it brand new." And then she starts going like this, and she gets to page like 28, and then she goes further, and she goes, "Oh," and she nearly has a heart attack. And I go, "Oh, why don't you sit down?" And this girl was, so I was in my 91. I was 51, right? So 91, I was 51. And so 60, 70, 80, no, 41. 91, I was 41. And she was like 27 to 32, somewhere in there. She'd always say, "I'm 21." But no, she'd really say, "I'm 16, But I knew she wasn't. She was a PhD, so, and she was doing some really squirrely research. I mean, she was just like me. But she looked just like the girl at Wendy's Hamburger, right? But 32, right? Or 27 to 32, right? But she was dressing like she was like 19, right? She always wore these short skirts. And the thing that endeared me to her, those saddle shoes, I guess they were called. They were white and black. My first wife wore them all the time. And we got, married. She was wearing them when, she got all dressed up. She'd be an evening gown and wearing those. That was like her nomenclature. That was who she was, right? That was her tell. And so did this redhead, my little Red. And, she was TBG, the pigtail girl, And all of my amazing affairs to remember have been, there's the TAG, the tag. There's, Grace. There's, the TPG. There are a number of them, right? Those who just come to mind. So, let's see. So we'll keep going. Let's see. The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light as if so many little mirrors had been scattered through such a mighty blaze, went roaring up the chimney as the petrification of the hearth had never known in Scrooge's time, or Marley's, or for that many and many a winter season gone. Heaped upon the floor to form a kind of throne were turkey and geese and game and poultry and barn. This is making me hungry. I should have started cooking when it was sunny. But how long have we been on here? 1 hour and 4 minutes and 11 seconds. How many? Oh, there are 4 people here. So let's see some. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Bob. This is again one of our special Christmas series of, I met an old, ancient Irish crone, and this is show number 4 of this series, right? And remember, love is all that is real. Everything else is illusion. Remember that. That is the cornerstone of the teachings here at the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technologies. Now, I've had that as an NGO since 68, right? Go look it up. That's the beauty. You know, I always was in the background. You know, I was always in the smoky room. I was always over there because I was the one guy who had an opinion that the people who, you know, shouldn't be in charge but are, and, you know, their name is hidden. I was there. So what do you think, Al? Still to this day, I get phone calls from people like that and say, what do you think, Al? And I say, hey, go drop something in my PayPal. Come on, I'm starving here. Winter's coming. You know, I think it's the 28th or 31st, and it's cold. I'm cold now. I'm wearing 3 coats right now. You know, and a pair of these like, you know, I'm like the pants I found at Walmart. So on sale. They wanted $40 for them, but they wanted to get rid of them and bring something fancier in because it really is like a styrofoam cup. But baby, it's toasty, and it's not too toasty. It keeps you right at whatever temperature you should be, right? And that's kind of how I live. And when they went on sale for $15, I scraped quarters together from the floor of the car, and it was just that. So that's why I really, 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 really put my heart into saying I could use some Christmas cheer at PayPal. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. 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 All lowercase, all one thing. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. So we go to PayPal, put some in there, and they want to know who? The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. You want to talk to me? I respond relatively quickly. There are a few new people on my The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Is that you? Are you there? And saying, I am here. You know, if you live in America, give me your phone number and I'll give you a call. If you live somewhere else, we'll figure it out. But you can always get a hold of me at my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. All lowercase, right? All one thing. And so come on, let's have some more thumbs up. How about some comments? Go get some subscribers. We got to get above 1,000, right? It'd be nice, right? I mean, 17,000 people watch this show, but it only shows like 3 right now, right? So, right. So, you know, this is the, you know, the ancient Irish crone series here, right? This isn't, you know, what's his name's show that, you know, hijacked me. Did you ever see that? You know, I don't know how many seasons ago, Saturday Night Live, they had this thing where an animation, you know, and these guys, you know, Warren Michaels and whoever that other guy was who started that show and produced it forever, walking down this lane, and this dog comes and grabs, you know, Saturday Night Live and runs away with it. And Warren Michaels, the cartoon character, is screaming, "Come back with my show! Come back with my show!" And that's kind of what the Canary in the Coal Mine kind of did. The Unmentionable One. You know, that's his new name. The Unmentionable One. We don't say anything about it. We just say the Unmentionable One, right? So the Unmentionable One, you know, my TV Playhouse. So here it is, right? We're here doing the story you love, the story that will change your life, the story that just makes your heart go, "Oh, I'm so happy that Sensei Al Bob is telling me this story. He's my griot," right? That's what I am. So come on. More people, you know, subscribing, more people thumbs up. Come on. You can do it. And more people in that gifting space for the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42. And drop me a note. Say, hey, how you doing? This is how I feel about this, this, and this. What do you think about it? I will give you a good thing. Send me a picture of your palm, you know, like from here to about here, both sides. I'll give you a reading, right? So for free, because, you know, I've been taught a lot of things, and all of them, my teachers, my masters, all said, listen, you can't charge for this stuff. But they want to give you a gift. That's great. You take that gift and say, thank you, thank you. You never saw Jesus say, no, can't have that water. I'm going to turn it into wine. No, you know, all those stinky fish and piece of bread. No, 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 don't want. You can't give. Don't give them to me. So the bottom line is, yeah, you can send me a gift, no problem. Gift. This ain't a transactional thing. I'm doing this because of, I guess it is maybe because I'm doing this for that 11%. This is my 11%. And the thing about this 11% that I'm working on now is very interesting because it has no temporal reference. If he was, well, he died when he was 60, whatever he was, and he did, 89%. That means that 11% should be, another 20 years, right? It kind of doesn't work that way. It's like how, so that's why I do a show 2-3 times a day, maybe 6 times a week, because, it is this ceremonial thing I go through before I do, hit, open, go live, I've already have stationed the little pebble of love's co-creation above, and I drop it into the World Wide Web, right? You just felt that, right? I'll do it again. Here it is. I dropped it in the World Wide Web, and it makes waves. I change things, right? Now, Mr. Globalone wants to do everything he wants to do. I mean, he already owns everything, everybody, right, controls it all, right? What more the frick does he want? And I just said he because it is this gender specific because everybody else is on a spectrum. First it was just queer, right? Everybody was just queer, right? Then it was lesbian and gay guys, and then LGBTQ, RST, UV, MOUSE. It's like until everyone realizes it's a friggin' spectrum. It's not any particular anything. It's everybody. It's all our relations. We're all on this spectrum, except those few, and I didn't say but, I said except, those few reptiles that are just hanging on to their reptileness. And these guys aren't even, have any of you known any snakes or lizards? They're quite nice, even though they're cold-blooded. They're quite nice. As is everybody. Because all our relations is every skinned, furred, scaled, energetic, feathered entity on this world is our brother and sister, right? Except for those folk who just can't, sociopath, all those socio things, right? And otherwise, you're just on the spectrum. You're neurotic, you're psychotic, you're not psychotic. Those things where you're going to kill somebody, and really, to kill someone, you got to be psychotic, right? Period. Otherwise, I mean, I've been in so many really dangerous. I mean, I lived in New York, the Lower East Side in the 60s and 70s was off the hook. You should, Terry Gross has a show called Fresh Air out of Philly, right? And it's on public radio. She's been doing it forever, right? She's probably one of, if not the best interviewer. She's really great. And she has a lot of other people. She's getting old, so other people, she's, giving them the shot at taking up the mantle. So she has 5 or 6 other people interviewing other things. She didn't want to work 24/7, 365. So anyway, so she got a bunch of other people who do a really good job because it's like in their bailiwick that they know really well. And she did a really good job of producing that, having 5, 6, 10. She has 5 or 6 that are there normally and another 20 that their speciality she gets them to do interviews. Anyway, guest preventers, right? Anyway, so she had this chef on and he wrote a thing about, and he wasn't a chef, he was a maitre d', right? And he came from a mob, low-lying mob family. He came from, Red Hook, kind of Brooklyn mob neck of the woods. And I lived in that neck of the woods. And it was all respect, blah, 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 right? So, and then it turned into gangs, right? And then it turned into Maelstrom, and then it turned into a failed state. Anyway, Lower East Side went the same way. It was like, Red Hook, uh, South Bronx, Brownsville, Lower East Side, right? Those were the worst of the worst. There was Needle Park and Harlem and a few other things, right? So, but those were still working class, weren't so bad. And on the edges, Red Hook is still working class, right? Anyway, that book written by this Mater D, interviewed by Fresh Air on public radio, basically gave the best description of living the Lower East Side of that time. It's like you never, someone broke into your house, ripped the door up, you didn't replace it. All your stuff got stolen. You went down to Second Avenue, you bought it back for $1, and then paid the junkie 10 to bring it back to your house. Then you spray painted it, frigging screaming orange. So when you went to Second Avenue, you didn't have to pay the $2. And that's mine. That's mine. Here's the $10 to bring it back. So, and if they didn't know you, like I lived in a neighborhood every week for 20 years, 5 people were murdered, right? And it would be people like, there's a story the guy says, this guy's the maitre d' at a super duper fancy schmancy restaurant. And it was in Red Hook, right on the water, looking at Manhattan, where in the middle of the look was, the United Nations and all those tall buildings. And over here was, the Williamsburg Bridge and then Manhattan Bridge and then the Brooklyn Bridge. And they're all different sizes. So that made it very interesting. And over here, 59th Street Bridge, but you got the big look of Manhattan there, all the tall buildings, the East Side. And because it was mobster land, they couldn't do it. So this guy said, fine. He bought just a little, place where you bring a boat in, and it was like a piece of garbage. And he bought it from a mobster, and and it had a big space for parking, because it was meant for big trucks to come in. So he turned it into a 5-star, top of the line, most famous restaurant in, better than Peter Luger's for steak. Just amazing. And the view was amazing. And it stuck out in the water. So I chuckled and said, well, that was kind of cool. And they still got their cut, but they let it slide about that. And their cut wasn't like in big chunks of cash, but in respect, where the Don would come by, he would have dinner, and they had a private little. And this guy came in who was a known man, a made man, but he was not a Don, and he was drunk, and he was rightly making And so this guy's made a deal. Someone comes over and says, hey, this guy, blah blah blah. And so, he gave the look to the bartender. The bartender cut him off. And so this guy, I'm going to get you. I'm going to kill you, blah, blah, blah. And all these mobsters came to this place. And so that's kind of what's kind of special place it was. And where I lived, I lived in Williamsburg, which was over there where the Hasidim was, but I also lived down by what they call the Clock Tower, which was the Church of Latter-day Saints had their big printing presses. This is where Hearst had his worldwide printing everything. Those guys did it, and they printed out all of the prayer books that are all over the world because of these great printing presses, right? So they owned most of those buildings, and there were still a couple, and it was a very industrial age, like between 1890s and 1920, maybe 60 buildings were built all around, the Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, up to almost the 59th Street Bridge. And it kind of, all of those bridges had walkways because all the people either walked into New York to work or came the other way. They also had subways because if it was further into New York or further into Brooklyn, they'd take the subway. And that's how it worked. New York City was a manufacturing town. And when I got there in that neighborhood in the latter 70s, that all died. I mean, that's when I knew, okay, the jig is up. And then a few years later, a year or two later, we have the oil embargo. A year or two later, we have Nixon going to China. I mean, that was, the heads up was watching that those industries just turned off like a light switch. But this guy, I was, what was his, Ivan Karp was his name, and he owned OK Harris. And I was his electrician, but I made art for him that he sold, right? And he gave me different fake names, right? Here's the new whoop-de-doo artist, because I kind of had a knack for doing that. Just I didn't want to, because a lot of friends, Keith Haring, Basquiat, Samo, a lot of people, guys I knew, like uh, Andy Warhol, Dali, what's his name? Oldenburg, Klaus, and Richard Serra. These are all guys that wired their buildings, wired their lofts, brought electricity into their buildings. I get to know them for 3 weeks to a month or two while I was working for them, and then they become buds. And I always had a really strange, interesting place to live. That they'd walk there without anyone knowing that who they were. They'd come up, and we'd have an amazing time. They could stay there. They could do this. It was like their little getaway. So I had a really interesting, between the 70s, when I was in New York in the 70s, when I became the dude, that was, and I had all these interesting spots to live. And then, so I had this loft in that section of Brooklyn, right where between here's the Brooklyn Bridge, here's the Manhattan Bridge. I could go over either walkways or take the subway, and there was no one there, just a clock tower. And Ivan Karp, I don't know if he bought a building there or he had a business, and guy wants art, and so he could do stuff in these lofts. So he said, "Here, I need somebody to watch after this building. Here's a whole, just like you did on Worcester Street." And this thing was concrete building, like you drop a bomb. It was built for industrial turnout in Millet because the Brooklyn Navy Yard was there, and there was a couple of armories. So this factory was turning out whatever widget it was needed, right? I mean, severe. And if they had pounding machines, they had concrete floors that were like 3 feet, right? It was like, and all these windows, the view of the bridges. I was like between the both bridges, and it was like, and they went like this. So the view was amazing. And all I had to do is like, especially spring, summer, fall, I would take either my bike or walk over and there was nobody there. And that's when I had dogs in New York. And these guys were great because I got them, their mommy was a feral dog and was like, she had been attacked, and I found her and she was like, "I'm gonna kill you," but she was like, she couldn't, that's barely was. I kind of found a cardboard box, kind of, took my coat off and put her in the coat and took her home and nursed her back, and then she had puppies, right? And I nursed her to a place where she could feed the puppies, and the puppies got to be about 4 months old, about 4 weeks old, and that's when she died. So she gave birth to him, and she fed him for the first 4 weeks, and then she died. She really did. And the one I kept, so I had 6 of them. And I kept them as long as I was there. So they stayed there, and I had this gigantic space, right? So I first had the dog compound, not a problem, and there was this kind of, I don't know, kiddie pool, but it wasn't. It was kind of an industrial thing for whatever they, dying or who knows what it was for, but it was kind of like a kiddie pool. It was a blow up kind of made out of canvassy material, and it only went up about a foot, if that. And so it was brilliant because I could put the mama dog in there and the puppies in there, and have all kinds of, I had hay. I found a place that had hay in Brooklyn, and put it down, had heat lamps, and I had it kind of covered, and so it stayed warm, and she could step over that corral of a bathtub, but the puppies couldn't, so she'd get away. So I made her a nice little cave where she could like recoup, and I first made her the little cave first, when I first found her, so I knew dogs like being in caves. So anyway, that was so I had that, and so she died when they were 4 weeks old, and I was mama. That was it. I was mama before this was milk machine. I was mama because I had this coat that had many pockets, and I had all the puppies in them, and I would they'd be around my body, and so by the time they were 2 months old, they were pretty big dogs. They were Mastiff, Mastiff and Pit, and Great Pyrenees, maybe. Big dogs, right? And it had also Border Collie, which instead of like being a horse, it was like the size of a good sized collie, right? Or a good sized Labrador, right? About 70 pounds. The guys were a little more. And they were truly a crew. And So I had loads of friends. So as soon as they were puppies, I had tons of, oh, they're so cute, blah, blah, blah. And all these very sweet girls would want to see, because right on the other side of the BQE, the BQE is like right there where I'm at, but I'm on the other side of the building. I had how many? 5,000 square foot each floor, right? And so, and it was like maybe 10 stories high, give or take. And the BQE was right over there. And like I said, Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, right? So there was this kind of hum. But on my side, I had, a whole 150 feet of concrete behind me. And where I lived was this corner that faced, like I could see the Statue of Liberty all the way to the Empire State Building. It was, and these two bridges. It was an iconic look, right? And I got the sun when it rose and when it set. It was like beauty. I mean, when it rose and when it set. And I was facing south. And so it was, one of my better lofts. And all I had to do is like sweep out the hallways, change the light bulbs, fix a few things, right? So I don't know if Ivan Karp owned that building, but I would swear he did, because he was a rich guy. He was a good businessman. And he kept saying, "You could be like me, Al. I'm like, you're more of a dude than I am. He was like, you want the throne? You want the, he just wanted to like retire." And that's what's going on with, the whole thing in Ukraine and Russia is that, Putin has stolen a shitload of money and he's holding the bag, like whenever mobsters try to launder their cash, they do it through real estate. So Putin has done that. So he's got I would say he's a trillionaire. He's but he's got more money than anybody else, but he has zero power. He can't be what he wants to be. He can't do what he wants to be. I have zip and, anyway, so, and I have a good sense, meaning poor Putin, no one's telling him what's going on. So that's his real problem. Because I was looking at what he's doing. I said, he's got to either be totally insane or he's getting the worst intel than anybody else. There is no C&C, it's like really down. So, I mean, if a little, totally corrupt little country, the poorest country in Europe before they were invaded, can kick their ass or at least keep them at bay or take them advantage or really make them look bad. I mean, Putin has no sense of the optics of anything because, anyway. And one little thing of this I will talk about. So all you hear about is how Russia's throwing all these cruise missiles at the Ukraine. Well, NATO is saying, fine, let him do that because better he shoots his wad on those people than us. It's really why NATO is supporting this whole conflict in this way. And they will do it as long as it's cost efficient, meaning it's degrading Russia, boom, 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 until the point where they can buy it for chump change, like they already did. But they will be able to walk in, not just open a Starbucks and have a McDonald's on Broadway, So that's what's going on here. That's the big picture, right? And Ukraine, on the other hand, they are suffering this so they can get their Audi, their electric Audi, and wear a leather jacket. Yes, they'll be living in Poland or Lithuania, or Estonia, or France, or Germany, or any of those Nordic, Sweden, Norway, Finland, any of those countries, because those people, you're our cousins, you're our brothers. Come on in. We'll take you. Forget going into a tent. You're staying in my house, right? And so, where did those puppies come from? So this is what I'm talking about. Our boy just keep popping out puppies, It's hold on. Hey, puppies. Hey, look at these puppies. These only come from Cody. Cody's the only guy who would do this, have the puppies out in the rain. and there is probably daddy, and there's more puppies and more puppies. And he totally treats these. He broke or almost broke the leg of another generation of dogs because he was upset with his life, and so he took it out on the dog. So here, the dogs are up at my neighbor's Airbnb, and they're shitting everywhere because they have no fencing. They're very cute. They're very nice, but that is what's going on, you know. So anyway, watch it. Come on, look out. So. Okay. How do I switch this? There we go. Oh, you're seeing me through rainbows. Okay, so that's the story. And maybe you heard it on the radio. You just didn't see them. I'll play it back to you. Stop it. Where do I play back? No, it stopped already. Hey, puppies. Hey, look at these puppies. These only come from Cody. Cody's the only guy who would do this. Have the puppies out in the rain. And there is probably daddy. And there's more puppies and more puppies. And he totally treats these. He broke or almost broke the leg of another generation of dogs because he was upset with his leg, and so he took it out on the dog. So here, the dogs are up at my neighbor's Airbnb, and they're shitting everywhere because they have no fencing. They're very cute. They're very nice, but that is what's going on, you know. So anyway, watch it. Come on, look out. So, hey, puppies. Hey, look at these puppies. Time to go. Oh, there he is. I just wanted to check in with you. My attempt to go live in New York fell through, so I'm back at Banjo Ridge.
Yeah, I seen you the other day. We were up there. I was like, oh, I thought he was gone.
No. And I didn't, I kind of was backing in, and then I saw a vehicle, so I didn't, again, I tried to tread softly, so I tiptoed away. But then I drive back, I saw that you had the Christmas tree. I said, I bet you that's Alan and T. So anyway, so
We just out for kind of a half a day because we came up to Charleston, got there about 9 at night, put up the Christmas tree, and left a little bit as soon as we cleaned up and stuff.
well, yeah, that must have been fun. I one of the my parents could have been problematic, or were problematic, but they really loved Christmas. I mean, beyond belief, right? We'd go all out. We'd make our decorate. I mean, it was really cooking for a month. Anyway, so when I saw that, I said, boy, that must have been fun decorating the house. Did you guys have a good time doing it?
Tina loves it. I like looking at it, but I definitely don't like doing it.
Oh yes, my dad was gaga for he had access to colored plastic that was light went through, and we had this big window facing the front street, and he would turn it into a stained glass nativity scene. I mean, Jack, you know how you have the big window in your place here with a Christmas tree in it, right? Our living room window was the whole friggin' wall. Maybe not as tall as that, but gigantic window across the whole. And he made it into like Jesus and Mary and Joseph and that's how gaga he was for all of that. So Christmas was always loads of fun. So, and my mom was German. Germans are really gaga for Christmas, and so when I saw that tree, I said, that must have been them, and it was very nice to see that tree. So have you noticed Cody's dogs on your porch?
Yes.
Right. So because he has he just keeps popping them out and then abusing them. And I'm sitting here, and your whole driveway was full of puppies.
What?
Yeah, and Whiskey, the daddy, was with them. He was like showing them the ropes.
That's how the sheriff's department on it too.
Right.
Again, I don't like to do that, but I mean.
Well, I don't know much how longer he can last because he keeps, doing this consume, right? He keeps saying, "Oh, I have no money." Like he wants to buy my school bus, which is fine. Get it out of there, And my experience with him, so he does something, and it's not what he says he's going to do, but it still brings a positive thing. So by him saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy it," it forced me to clear it out, which I had to do anyway someday, so I did. And so that was a good thing, and blah, blah, blah. And now one of his guys is living in it, but he's obviously can't stand Cody, so he's going to get out of there, right? So anyway, that's kind of what it is. And that bus will, by our little contract that I made him sign, he'll get it out of there maybe by March. So anyway, but he has done that. All he does is scam. And around here, everyone knows what everyone's business is. So I don't see him really lasting. And he really does some sketchy stuff. And you could probably get away with it in a big city like New York or Miami because it's so low down on the sketchiness that the people, the police don't care, right? Unless you're black or unless you're really stupid or less any of the unless things. So anyway, that's our boy. I don't know much how longer he can truly last. Because whatever you found out about him in Florida, being here all by himself with his kids has manifested him to double down on that character trait. So, like I said, I don't know how long he's gonna last. So I don't keep real tabs, but like I said, man, people knows everyone's business around here. So it's so I don't know, and he really eats these puppies up alive. I mean, the guy who had that house, the guy, Cody didn't want that puppy. So the guy said, "I'll take it." Because the guy, I don't know what Cody was going to do with that puppy, but, there were a couple other puppies he didn't want, and then they weren't around anymore, whether they used them for target practice or what. But again, I have no idea. I don't make him part of my thing. I keep a good eye on him because I want to stay out of his way when he does something really squirrely. So, but I, don't really let it bother me. It's my trainer for patience, right? And non-judgmental things. So, but it's still here. And if anyone ever buys anything more around here, allegedly, Cody told me that house that has not the one that has the busted up driveway to the top of the mountain, but the other one that has the super steep thing, the one that you see first, right? Whatever house you call that no one seems to like once they get in there. So anyway, he said somebody bought it for $400,000. And I said, what? Please. So no idea. And I don't see any cars there, but it's lit up like a Christmas tree. But maybe that's what they think for security. But in reality, when you light something that up, all you're doing is helping the thief to see what he's breaking into. One light, like what you got is pretty much all you need. You know. Anyway, that's my report. I'm back here. So far, it's really only been. It really hasn't gotten colder than the 30s at night and 50s during the day. Right. Last night it was 50, and today it's 60. But it's dank. We're in the dank mountains, right? So in my little box, my thermometer says 50. It feels like 22. You know. And I really can't heat that place. I mean, I try. It may, heat my kneecap or something, but otherwise, no. The only real thing that heats me up, I have two very nice electric blankets. I wrap myself up in those suckers, turn them on. I am toasty like a croissant in the oven. So, but that's somewhat limiting. Anyway, the universe wanted me here. I don't know why, but I'm here. So that's my report. Otherwise, you're okay.
Yep. I'll look at since you're gonna be here, I'll look at the calendar. I'll send you the date.
Yeah. That's one reason why I called you. Give me a little list. But as you saw, that I'm very suspicious. If I see anybody not there, I look around for things, and if I don't get anything from you, that gives me, I think, the carte not. I just okay. I'll make sure no one's there. Won't leave a footprint. But
Mostly go by my dates because, like I said, people what they do is they'll come and go to the.
yeah, their own. Yeah, and when you put the dates, I am religious about it. So the date is really what I want. So that's why I call to say I'm back and to give you a little report on what's going on and to say that I saw you and I like the Christmas tree. And so just text me the dates and that'll be great. It's like you don't have to wig out on it. And do you see? Are you able to look at your little screen? Is there anybody coming in like in the next few days?
Oh, hold on, let me check. All right, today is what is today?
Today is like the 8th, 9th, or 10th. No, it's not. It's more like the 5th, 6th, or 7th.
Hold on, so you let me find out the date. Oh, it's the 6th.
Okay.
Now I can go from there.
Okay.
As of right now, until it changes,
Okay.
there's nobody in until the 21st of December.
Right.
So, yeah. So you got to the 21st.
Okay. And if anything changes, just because if you text it on this phone number, I'll get to see it. That's that one thing that, like if I come up here, I get a good phone signal. If the magic is working, I get a pretty good phone signal in my deep in my little man box there. So this phone number is the way to go, and that's what you have been using. So it's all good. But he has, the really thing if Cody's dogs, if he didn't keep having batches of puppies, it wouldn't be because once they grow up, they don't really come up here. But Whiskey brings the puppies that are like all over your thing, and they really are. I mean, they're the cutest little buttons. If you scoop them up and sold them, you could probably do pretty good. They are really, those dogs are nice, but their most important time is right now, and they're being totally abandoned and abused.
Well, they crap on my.
Oh, they crap on everything. I'm just sitting here. That's because I saw them crap on everything. Because they don't know any better. But I mean, these puppies must be no more than 2 weeks old, if that. They look like little sweet potatoes with ears. So, but it's out and cold, and there's no grown-ups around him. No, Whiskey just brought him up here and then left. It's like anyway. So I just thought I'd give you that report. And like I said, I really can't see how much longer Cody can be up here because he's wrecked unbelievable number of cars. I can't believe how many cars he's wrecked. And I don't know if he's doing it as a insurance scam or what he's doing, but we're out in the middle of nowhere. So he wrecks a car. If he can get home and the police aren't around, whatever, substance was in him, probably, but, I don't see, and he's also I don't know how friendly he is with like the justice of the peace or whatever that thing that's not quite a policeman. What is it when
Constable.
a constable? That guy. Did you ever go over on Pogey Road to where the junkyard is and that little store is?
Dr. Curtis's.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right up the road from Dr. Curtis's, and it's at Bob's, place, I think it's called. And that he's that guy. And so Cody's tried to snuggle up to him so he could, just before he gets in trouble, he can, because criminal folk, they know how to play the law because they're always being played. So, anyway, that's my observation of everything. And like I said, I just wanted to touch base with you and see who was coming. So I'm good to the 21st, unless notified. And it has been raining. But it doesn't seem to fill up the creeks. Have you noticed that? How dry all the creeks are, and the lake is down by deeper than I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I looked down when I was up there.
Yeah. So, do you ever stay up at the doctor's, or do you just stay here?
No, just there. Well, I take it back. We ate there a couple times, but mostly just there. At our place.
Right. Okay, that's the report. Everything's fine. Like I said, it looks like it's going to rain for the next at least week. Be really dank, but semi-warm. It's supposed to be pretty. All of December is supposed to be warmer than usual. There may be a night or two where it might snow, but other than that, it's just rain. And so I'm okay with that. If it's 29 during the day and 10 at night. I'll be able to stay warm in my bed or in my chair, snuggled in my electric blanket, but electricity goes off. Ooh, baby. And I'm trying to keep that bill down. What's your bill? You're probably about $100, right?
Boy, I don't even know.
It's your biggest expense, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's our biggest one.
And do you know if your HVAC is a heat pump or is it just have a compressor and making it hot or cold?
I'm not sure.
Because heat pump, at the very least, if it wasn't a heat pump, you put a heat pump. Heat pump uses half the electricity that your standard air conditioner, compressor, and heating element. So. And the utility would definitely help you on that one because their whole system is pretty sketchy. I was talking to one guy, and they I don't know if a lot of people move in here, what's going to happen? So it's like okay. So anyway, that's the report. What else can I report you? That's about it. So I'm good to hear that you guys had a nice Thanksgiving and everything.
Yep.
That's good. Are you going to spend Christmas here?
No, we have renters. There's actually people in there 21st all the way up
To New Year's?
the past New Year's.
Oh, past New Year's. Yeah, well, those are the guys you want.
The first group of 21st to 26th.
Right.
And then it's right back. They're back to back, and then another group, and then another group.
Well, that's
So,
good. Yeah, that's very good. That'll tide you. That'll be the thing you want. And I don't think winter is really going to be here until like maybe the 10th of January. And depending on how it bounces is whether I get snowed in or not. But anyway, that's the report. So you're probably not coming back up until at least after New Year's, right?
yeah, probably not after New Year's.
Right.
Probably, if I'm guessing, around maybe the 14th of January or so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give a report. So just keep me attested to who and what, and I'll touch base with you after New Year's. So happy everything until then.
All right. Yeah, like I said, until the 21st, and then
Right. Then probably not until after the New Year's.
yeah, January
by January 5th. Okay, gotcha. From 21 to January 5th. Yep. 10-4.
All right.
Okay, bud. Later. Okay, so you heard that conversation. Maybe you shouldn't have, but who knows? So that's, it's a soap opera. That's what it is. It's a soap opera, right? And Cody Boy, he's, he is what he is. Like he's not evil. He's not, but he's just unconscious. And he is, his whole life gotten over on people, and not, and in the most moron, minuscule kind of ways. And maybe at some point it was dangerous and threatening, but still, I mean, why did you do that? Why does it, why does anyone need a gun? You don't. Period. And having a gun is more dangerous. You look at the statistics. I'm Mr. Statistics. It's like, basically, if you've got a gun, 38% of the statistics say that someone's going to take it away from you and use it on you. Sorry for not keeping in touch. Yeah, Graham. Well, that's always good. Whatever you drop in, it's fine. Wendy. Let's see. 1950 Christmas Carol. Yeah. So like Tones, Charles Dickens. Good idea. 1843. Yep. Let's see. Fish. Good too. Yep. A communicator. Dublin, Ireland, Germany. Yep. Graham. Sorry. Yep. No problem. Graham. Help stay warm. Yep. Who else here? Let's see. So Michelle. Sound good there. Yep. One day shop. Yep. So anyway, so that was nice. A little Dickens, a little this. I haven't eaten anything, so I'm going to go have breakfast. And it stopped raining, so I guess now just kind of thick fog. It's like living in London in 1957, So, remember, subscribe, thumbs up, comments, a little bit of the Christmas cheer into PayPal, the dude awake 42 at Gmail, right? And what I just had done, was give a report to my neighbor, the guy who's kind enough to let me, because I'm only a mile from his Wi-Fi, and the next closest thing to me is 13 miles, right? And then the next close is 18, and the next is 30. So my car likes it that I'm only a mile from here, and he likes it that I keep an eye on things. When the bear gets messy, I clean it up for him and stuff like that. So anyway, that's about it. Thanks for showing up. I probably won't do another one today. So it's almost been 2 hours. So let's spend the next few minutes breathing deep, focusing our conscious mind on our 20 and our 360 by being consciously aware. I am consciously aware. I am consciously aware. I am. And one last vitamin C gummy that's been in my pocket for 6 months. Can't get enough vitamin C. Cat hair. Hairball. Anyway. So this show could be named Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Thank you, Charles Dickens. Thank you for everyone who's shown up tonight and today. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. This is your Sensei Al Bob right here on the screen. Here's your griot to tell you a story. Morning glory. Stay tuned. I love you all. Catch you later. Now, it's going to be 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 54 seconds. I love it when it happens like that.